The game I'm going to be modding is Peak, so I'm going to click on that. It's good to kind of know like what the community has already done, like so it just saves you time and not having to configure everything yourself. Like if the community already made a API that makes it easier to mod stuff, it's doesn't hurt to use that because it just makes it easier on yourself. For example, they have pre-configured their own BepInEx package. BepInEx is basically a loader, and that loader will help us to inject the code that we write into the game so it behaves how we expect it to. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a manual download. I'm just going to save it and we'll get back to that. You can manually install this if you want. It's basically going to help us with things like ILspy, which is going to help us to actually view the game code. It's also going to help us to modding in general. You could get the .NET 8 or .NET 9. I'm personally going to get the 9 version. However, because I'm going to be using Visual Studio, I don't need to manually download the .NET SDK because Visual Studio is going to download one of these versions for us. And if you're not sure if you have it properly installed, I would do Command R and just type .NET. If you don't see it, or actually .NET version, if this command doesn't work for you, even if you have Visual Studio, then you should download it manually and see if that helps. I'm going to install Community 2022. I'm going to get that. Save. Okay, now that it's done, I'm going to click on the XC. Continue. And now we can just click on .NET right here, and that's all we need to do. I'm going to actually uncheck Pilot, Live Share. Now I'm just going to click on Install, and I'll see you once it's done. The next thing we want is ILspy. ILspy is going to help us to look at the game code. So I'm going to go to Releases under that and click on the latest. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to look for which one was it? I'll just get this one, and now it's installed. Okay, and now if I click on it, if you installed the .NET SDK or Visual Studio, then this should work properly. If you did not and .NET doesn't exist on your system, then you might get an error here. But everything works fine. Now if I go to ILspy, then it shows up. Okay, and I'm just going to just wait for that. Okay, I'm just going to delete all this for now, and we'll get back to this. Now that we have all of that stuff done, we can open up Visual Studio and click on Create a New Project. Next, we want to look for Class Library, a project for creating a class library that targets .NET or .NET Standard, C#, Android, Linux, macOS, Windows. All these tags should be here, and it should look exactly like this. So I'm just going to click on this, and I'm going to name it just whatever. Click .NET Standard 2.1, that's good. Okay, now it's properly loaded. I'm going to rename class 1 to plugin. Okay, so now your project should look like this, including the red lines, because there's still stuff that we need to set up. So I'm just going to go to Project and click on Manage Nuget Packages. And your project should look like this, all of this stuff here. What we want to add is go to this cog here and click on that. Make sure, Nuget is selected, not unselected. Make sure that the version is 3. That's important. Also, we need to add one more thing. And that one more thing should be renamed to BepInEx. And we want to paste this link here, which I'll put in the description as well, just so you can easily copy it. I'm going to click on OK, just make sure that's fine. Yeah. Just make sure that we can actually see that Nuget. Okay, yeah. So I have Nuget select or BepInEx selected right now. You could select all, it doesn't really matter. But we're interested in finding is BepInEx analyzers. So I'm just going to install that. Click apply. BepInEx core, install, apply. Unity modules is one of them as well. So install, apply, and we also need plugin. I don't know if that's in the BepInEx source. Oh, it is. Okay. So we just click on that. Install. And that's all we need. Now if we click on our CS proj, it should look like this. Also, if you're, if for some reason you're using a different IDE and you're like, how do I add all these packages properly? You could open up this project here. If I just go to where the source of the project is, and if I go one back, I could just add, it's called Nuget.config. I think the only thing that we need to do here, if I just open this up, is paste this in, and you would save it. And so if you're using like Visual Studio Code or PyCharm or whatever IDE you're using, you just need to make this Nuget.config and just add this in there. But because I'm not using that, I'm not going to do that. Okay, so this is saved. I'm going to save my CS proj. If I go to plugin, some of these red lines, you can see that some of these are green now, but we're still getting some red lines, so we got to fix that. If I go back to my CS proj, I'm going to kind of clear this out. Okay, and now in the end it should look like this. Actually, you still need to add our assembly name, and let's just call it my mod, and we can save that, and that'll be good. Now if we go back to plugin.cs, all the red lines are gone. This is basically a Roslyn analyzer, so it'll highlight things if the formatting is off, if there's a syntax error, or if we maybe didn't do something the correct way, like in terms of, I don't know, the format. That's what this helps us with. This is the framework that BepInEx uses. This generates a plugin info class based on the metadata that we have up here, and I think a couple other things as well. And now the version here is actually pretty important, because this is actually based on the latest version of Unity that's out right now. I'm not sure if this one specifically is the latest version, but it is one of the latest versions of Unity. And since we're modding a game, it's important that this version matches the version of the actual game. To see the version that's most relevant to us, if we go to Steam and look at the game that we're interested in modding, we just click on this cog icon here, go to Manage, and click on Browse Local Files. And if we click on the exe and open up Properties and go to Details, then we can see that the latest version is 6000.0.36. Okay, F1. So that's the version that we should be using here. So if I just copy this, paste it here, now we're on the exact same version that the game uses, and we can have a better time with modding. Turns out that I should not have that F1 in there, because then it doesn't like it. Does that work? Okay. Okay, so don't have the F1 in there, just have the numbers. Don't go wild, I guess. Okay, now we can open up ILspy, and I'm gonna go to the game that we have here, Manage, Browse Local Files, and I'm gonna go for peak data, Managed, and I'm gonna get Assembly C#, and I'm gonna put that in ILspy. Now if we click on, we can, open up some of these, but this dash here is gonna have most of the main code that's going to be relevant to us. There's a couple of things we can do If you click on the search tool, you could, as a general guide, you can look up, stuff that you see in game. For example, poison is something that happens in the game. So if I just look up poison, we could see where else it shows up. And we could see it happens in Bee Storm. It's been a while since I played this game, so I'm not, too caught up. But I didn't even know there was bees in here. You could look up player as well to see where player is referenced. Player is kind of, well, you gotta be careful when you're looking things up, because Unity games use third-party packages as well, right? So that means if you're gonna look up something like very general, like player, you might see something that's not in the game that you're modifying itself and just in a third-party package. For example, this player is being referenced by the photon assembly, and that's not a specific to Peak itself as a third-party package that helps it run with multiplayer, and you don't want to modify this specifically, but you might modify where it's referenced in the game code itself. So you just gotta make sure that when you're looking things up, it's in assembly C# and not in some third-party package. So just keep that in mind if you're looking things up. And we need to add an assembly. So we need to go here and we need to click on add, and we need to click on project reference, because right now we're just using a base. This doesn't have any reference to the main game itself, and we need to fix that. So let's go to browse, and okay, we're conveniently already placed in here, but if you aren't, then all you would have to do is go to, okay, let me just make it less confusing. Go to manage, browse local files, once again, peak data, managed, copy this path, and then you would just go to Visual Studio and click on browse, and you would be here. You would just paste it in here, and that would be cool. Okay, so assembly C#, we need to click on that. Well, actually, I'm gonna look at the stuff that I need, because I don't remember off the top of my head, but I have made a project that references some of these files, so I'm just gonna look at that real quickly and just get back. Okay, so these are all the projects, or all the files that you need to reference. Assembly C#, this, that. Let's scroll down so you can see it. So you can click on all these files, and they'll automatically be placed in here once you click on OK. Okay, I'm just going to save that now, and we should be able to reference things from the game itself. And yeah, okay. And I'm going to make a patch file folder. So patches, and because we're going to be modifying the GUI manager, I'm going to call it GUI manager patch. So I'm going to copy this, and just so we don't have a name conflict, I'm going to name it that. So, patch, and of course reference Harmony. Okay, so I've denoted this class with the Harmony patch. And the Harmony patch is basically letting us essentially saying that every method that is denoted with the Harmony keyword should be modifying something. And the thing that it's modifying is the GUI manager in this instance, because we're saying the type of and the class name. And the class name here is GUI manager, so of course we have the type of GUI manager. So again, we're telling it that we're modifying the class, a specific class, and a specific method within that class. So that is what this part means. The postfix is essentially us saying that, okay, if I just type this real quickly, game code is up here, and our code. Postfix is basically Harmony saying, okay, I should run after the initial game code runs. So if you go to, what am I modifying? Okay, late update. if I go with late update, all of this stuff is going to run, and then our code is just going to be under it. So the postfix essentially runs after the game code. That is what this does. And there is an opposite to that, the prefix. If you're running a prefix, you should have the method set to a bool. So, and you should have it return true or false. If you want the method to, if you want the original game code to continue running, then you would return true. If you want to completely stop the original code from running at all, you would return false. And you can read up on this in the Harmony documentation. They have all this stuff that you can do with it. I mostly just use prefix and postfix. I have used transpiler in the past. I'm not going to get into it, but you can read up on this and what the postfix and prefix does. They have it documented. Will be in the description. And yeah, so that's what that does. The reason why this is commented like this in a string and not name of is because the late update method is not public. It is private. So if you're doing name of, the benefit of doing GUI manager.nameOf is that you can easily see the method that you're modifying. So if I do set title, you could see that I could easily reference it, and I don't have to go and copy paste it. I could just easily reference it. But I can't do that for everything because not everything is public. The only reason I can do it for set hero title is because it is public. It is a public method, and for every public method you could do this, the name of thing too. But that is why I was mentioning before about how you can go into communities on Thunderstore and see all the APIs they've made, because this community has made a wiki on how to set up a mod in their generalized way. They don't do it exactly the way that I've shown in this tutorial, but the way that they do it is they allow you to use they've publicized every method so that you could easily access them the same way you would a public method. Even the private ones, they've made them all public. So if you wanted to, you could check out their own way of setting up the mod. But that wouldn't be global to every other Unity game. So, that's why I was mentioning before about how you can look into Unity games if they're on Thunderstore and see how they do it. But this is a more general way of how you would go about it. Anyways. Okay, so I've made a couple changes. I'm instead getting the type of the mountain progress handler, and I'm modifying the update method within this class. I'm also using, you could see that in these parameters I have an instance argument named, and that basically what that does is if you go into ILspy and you see all these things here in mountain handler, you could see a variable names, classes. When you do instance, that will essentially allow us to access any of those methods. So debug progress, that is an integer, and we could do the same with set segment complete, and we could keep doing that with any one of those. So what I'm using it for here is for instance.progress points, because that allows us to properly use the set hero title in GUI manager, and that's the thing that I'm going to be modifying. But you can't do this with private variables because they're private, but you can do them with public ones, and I'm just going to do a simple guide on how to do that. But when set hero title is called, the value that it has initially is changed once it gets to my method here, and then after my method says okay, it's going to be called a radical, everything else is ran after it. And so that's how that works. And because I return true, the method would still run, so it does all the stuff it needs to. And I don't want it to return false, because then I don't get all of these things that happens after. I'm going to go to plugin and I'm going to do underscore harmony dot patch all. And I'm going to go Control B. Now our mod is built. So if we go to our project folder, open folder in File Explorer, and we go to bin, debug, net standard, and we scroll all the way down. Well, actually, we just have to find what our mod is called. Let's see. There it is. My mod. You could just, yeah, okay. Copy the DLL and the PDB file. Control C. And actually, we might have to come back to that in a while because we still need to go to Steam, browse local files, and we still need to set up BepInEx. So I'm going to go to my downloads, paste it in here, and I'm just going to drag the BepInEx. Wait. I'm going to drag that in here. There we go. And then with that done, the folder should be empty, or I guess it has a couple of stuff. Core, config, okay. And I'm going to run the game normally first, so it generates the files properly. Recommended, okay, let's go play. Alright, the game loads fine. The folder here, everything should look fine. If I go to plugins, we see that we have extra files now, so that works. And yeah, okay, I'm just going to close the game. Now we could go back to where our mod was stored, and we can copy this again and go to plugins, paste that in there, and I'm actually going to go to config and set up the CFG. This might show up as a text file to you if you just don't have this IDE, but it's fine. You just have to set logging.console to true, and you should be good. So I'm just going to close that, and I'm going to open up Peek again. Peek. And we should see a console show up this time. People have said that has caused errors by having the console open, so if it doesn't work, you could just keep the console off. Okay, now that I'm on the beach or the shore, if I press 0, there should be something that shows up on screen. So I'm going to click 0, press 0. It shows my name, which is good. And if I step on the shore without pressing anything at all, then this, where is it? This section should show radical on the screen. So I'm going to go step a couple feet. And it did not work. So I think I found the issue. I forgot to put the ref keyword, which is important when making, when modifying an argument inside of a method. So let's see if that fixes it. Now it should work if I stand on it. There we go. Okay. Amazing. And using the same format, if I go to Lethal Company's game files and I click on properties, details, and I look at the version number, remember the version number, and then back to our CSproj file. And I have all this in here already, but make sure we have the same version number, all that stuff, all the assemblies that we need, and player controller B. I just have a simple thing. It'll give us a very long reach, and all I have to do now is just build the mod, Control B, and then if I go to the mod folder, open folder and file location, bin, debug, that's standard, and I just look for my mod name, which is reach far, and copy both of this, Control C. Okay, and I go to Lethal Company, BepInEx, plugins, put that in there, and I launch the game. I'm not going to launch from Steam this time. Okay, so I just launched the game. It did not work, and that is because before launching the game, I had used a mod launcher, and for some reason, I don't know, Thunderstorm or Gale, they kind of mess with your ability to use BepInEx. So what I do when that happens is I have to uninstall the game, and I have to reinstall the game again, and then probably reinstall BepInEx. Well, actually, I don't have to reinstall BepInEx. I just have to uninstall the game. But if the game doesn't work, you kind of probably have to reinstall because of the mod launcher. Okay, so I'm in the game now, and if I turn around, you can see that I'm getting the option to open and close stuff from really far away. So we know that it works. I can go to the terminal. I can pick up that thing over there. Got it. And yeah, it works. So that's pretty much it. You can do this with quite a few different games. The process is obviously different for games that are obfuscated, and maybe I'll make a video on that another time, but that's pretty much it.